Shalom, Laha Alahayim, peace to the gods, Nawathan, Kal, Halaliumla, Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Racha Hakwadash, giving all praises to Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai, in the name of the Holy Spirit, double honors unto the elder apostles, elder bishops, and the head elders of all the camps of Great Millstone GMS who do rule well. Salutation, peace, and blessings to the Bayath Duada, the house of David, the predestined spirits of election, starting with the governing body, the 144,000, 12,000 men of each tribe of Yasha'Allah, as well as the remaining one-third of men, women, and children who are rehearsing the righteous acts to the best of their ability. This is your brother Tazapanya, Banyamyan of the Sons of Yasha'Allah camp, out here in Colorado Springs, Colorado, Adawan Ratazah, Lord willing. This is Edifying to the Elect, this digital epistle, spiritual commentary. So, I saw this Kim Iverson show. It says Inside Net and Nada JOO secret plan to derail a two-state solution. Or in it. All right, with Scott Horton. She has a guest on the show, and what got me it was, I don't know if you can see it too clearly, but that picture that they have, and I've seen that picture before on what they're trying to make the new Middle East. So let's get a couple things straight. Okay, there's no such thing as the Middle East. Okay, there is West Asia. Okay, West Asia. All right. Middle East was a social political construct. All right, in order to establish Edomite supremacy, and global oil cartel and things of that nature, money, things of that nature, right, to control the narrative. There we go. All right. And I seen it, I remember watching the brother Korah Ibad out there in the Houston camp, and he was bringing out that Greater Israel project on how they're basically trying to usurp the birthright of what was promised to Abraham. So we're going to get that scripture in a minute, but I'm going to play this. So I want to get into the war in Israel, the war that's going on now with what Israel is doing to the Palestinians. I did watch your kind of debate or discussion, I don't know what you want to call it, with Viva Frey. I watched that because him and I had gone back and forth early on in this about Israel. Him and I had been on the same side of many subjects for a long time, and then suddenly this war breaks out. And I think we saw this with a lot of people. A lot of people were on the same side of many issues. Suddenly, this particular issue, Israel and the Palestinians, has divided people who were once on the same side of many issues. And this is one of those with him, where he has, like many people, a very staunch seeming support of Israel or defense of Israel or excuses made for Israel. So I watched your interaction with him. And I thought it was interesting, the arguments he made throughout, or the excuses he made throughout for Israel taking the land or for the Palestinians continuing to be oppressed by the Israelis were things that we're hearing a lot right now. Like, for example, well, they lost a war. So, when you lose war, when you start wars and you lose wars, this is what happens to you. Or they didn't ever own the land. Well, the land was never theirs. It was the British or it was the Ottomans. So they could do whatever they want with the land. It's not theirs. So if they have to move, they have to move because the British said so, which to me was really, one of the most outrageous arguments is this idea that, the Turks own that land or the British own that land. You mean they came and they subjugated the people who were living on that land, who it's the land of the people who live there, and these larger empires come in and then take over and say, it's ours now. Nobody would, if China came. Now notice, right, she said the British, which are Edomites, and then the Ottomans, which would be your Turks, which, if I'm not mistaken, those are just Amalekites that came from Khazaria, but converted to Islam. Okay, so there's no wonder why that both of these tribes of Esau wanted to take over this land for a spiritual certain reason. Over here and said, it's ours now. We would never accept that. We would never say.
I forgot you said that.
Yeah, right. That there's this, this idea that it belongs, if you're a renter on someone else's land. This was the argument he used. If you're a renter
and you've got a landlord, and if your landlord decides that you have to move and that they're going to use that land to somebody, give that land to somebody else, tough luck. Which is really, again, insane, because that land was never British. The British were not, they might have taken over, like they took over India, like they took over all these other places in the world, but it was not theirs. They just took control over it. Same thing with the Ottomans. That wasn't Turkish area where Turks were living. It was, they came in and they conquered, just like they conquered many other places, and the people were living there, and the people deserved their independence. They deserve to get rid of the conquerors if they so choose. So what do you think? What do you think it is that causes people?
So did you hear that? So she said that, you don't own the land, you just took control over it, but the people that are being oppressed can basically revolt, according to what she said, her logic, and fight back against the conquerors if they so choose. So then the question remains, look at Babylon the Great, which is America according to the scriptures. Are so-called white people, which are Edomites, that the nation that the Lord has indignation, righteous anger forever, that he hates, a whole nation of people, you so-called white people, do they own America? No. Rhetorical question. So according to your logic, wouldn't the so-called Native American, all right, the tribe of Gad, the tribe of Reuben, the so-called Seminole Indian, right, and even on the West Coast, the so-called Issacharite, the so-called Mexican, which is the tribe of Issachar, would they be able to do what you said, right, according to your own logic?
To kind of have these feelings that I feel like if it were any other country or any other scenario put out there, that they would, something about Israel. And then what we do hear a lot, speaking of Yemen, is a lot of people will say, well, why don't you speak out about Yemen so much? Like, why are you so vocal about the Palestinians, but not as vocal about the Yemeni people and the crisis that was going on there? Like, why is it? And then the reason why they're asking that question is because their conclusion is it's because of Jews. You're just anti-Semitic. You don't like Jews. And because you don't like Jews, that's why you're speaking out against, when Jews do bad things, but not when like Saudis do bad things. So what do you think is kind of creating this division, I guess, amongst people who other?
It's because there's a great veil over the people, and the Most High's lifting that, and Esau's being searched out. Yeah, the Ishmaelites, the so-called Arabians, are moving wickedly because they don't have the law. They're not keeping the law. All right, the law wasn't given unto them. They are the sons of men. However, the Edomites, so-called white people, especially the tribe of Amalek, your gentrifying, bagel eating, hook nose, small hat wearing, you wish you was us people, are a sect of the conglomerate of the wicked. Okay, so there's a different level. One was created to do completely wickedly. All right, so but she can't get it because the Lord of obviously is not dealing with her. All right, but let's get a quick scripture. All right, in the book of, I think it's in Isaiah. Let's get that real quick. This is Isaiah 25:7, and he will destroy in this mountain, this government, the face of the covering cast over all people, and the veil that is spread over all nations. You see? So all of these little social political constructs of colors and demographics, we're the ones that's letting you know, according to the table of nations, Genesis chapter 10, who is who through the Spirit. All right. So, and the veil has been lifted through the Spirit, through his prophets. Okay. And it was spread over all the nations, because all the elite know, but the people under them don't really know what's going on. And that's why the real reason is the controversy, all right, of Zion. This is Isaiah 34:8. For it is the day of the Lord's vengeance, and the year of recompenses for the controversy of Zion. Controversy goes into a fighting. All right. So people is wondering why all of this is why them, why could, because there's a fighting going on, all right, regarding who's the true Zion, who's the true people of the Lord.
Otherwise would have agreed.
Well, look, Kim, I mean, all the things that you just cited there that come from his arguments, right? Everyone can tell that's all a bunch of crap, right? And Frey, I don't know if he's Jewish or not. What he is he's a lawyer, right? And so
Right.
What happened in that argument was he essentially wanted to quibble about every little point where he didn't even have a point, really, in order to just disrupt and prevent, my ability to just explain the narrative that here's who's zooming here and how, which
Right.
there's plenty to follow up on there, right? But essentially what he's doing is, I mean, I think anyone who's honest could just look at that and go, well, all those things, they sound like just slogans.
Right.
And talking points, right? Oh, man, you just hate Jews. Like, do we even need to discuss that? That's for stupid crybabies to cry about and other people to pretend to care about. I don't care about that. It's completely irrelevant.
See, all that shit, that anti-Shem, anti-Sham ness that have been going on, niggas is not falling for it no more. Nobody's falling for it no more, man. See, all eyes is on this devil, man. You see? Because the wicked is being revealed. You see?
The question of property rights. Oh, the Sultan in Istanbul can give a writ and give property he's never seen and never owned to someone who also doesn't own it, who's another rich guy sitting in a bar in Beirut.
And that's why when it comes to land rights, it's really from the Lord. And that's why the world needs new management. Okay? And through his people, all right, they're the ones, the elect, through the decree of Yahweh Shai is going to be able, after 1,000 years, of course, give back the lands after 1,000 years of slavery, Salakia, of the heathen nations. All right, going to give back the lands that is appointed to them where the Lord wants them to be at. You see, because if it was up to man, it will always constantly be fighting. You see, this is why there needs to be lords. She talking all that landlords. Yeah, the lords of the land is going to be the Israelites
somewhere, and the actual farmers who've owned the land all along have no say in any of this. And then on top of that, the British can come because Woodrow Wilson helped them win the war and steal the Middle East, and so then they get to come and, of course, betray all sides, make promises and sign contracts with everyone involved, but
Right.
only the promises that they made to the Zionists are the ones that count. The rest of their so-called law is completely irrelevant. And they can, again, give up property that they don't own. That all belongs to civilian property owners. Isn't it funny how Zionists all become Bolshevik communists who've never heard of the even concept of property rights ever before in their life? The moment it becomes the Palestinians. And they say things like, they never had a state called Palestine before. Yeah, well, guess what? Nation states were only invented in the 1600s at the Treaty of Westphalia. What the hell are you talking about? The whole world was lousy with empires. Now it's 192 sovereign nations, sometimes 194 or 95, depending on who's seceding from who at any given time. And what the hell are they talking about? The Israeli state didn't exist until 1948, as long as we're making up states. So according to their rules, since the Israelis didn't have a state up until 48, they had no right to declare one in 48. You see how this is all just a bunch of crap? None of these are even real arguments at all. They're not discussions of history, of who did what to who or anything. These are talking points manufactured by focus groups to try to confuse the issue, to try to get people to glom on to essentially what amount to these almost always have these alliterations. And
see, they count that people is they waking up, and it's really the Lord. They're trying to control the narrative. That's what confuse the issue means. You see, they're putting out disinformation out there, all right, through psyops, psychological operations for certain people to believe this and to believe that regarding Edomites. You see, but the wicked is being revealed, like I said before. Matter of fact, let's go get that in Second Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 8. And then shall that wicked be revealed, which are the Edomites, pursuant to Malachi chapter 1, verse 4, precept upon precept, whom the Lord shall consume with the spirit of his mouth, and who's the mouthpiece of the Lord? The prophets, and shall destroy with the brightness of his coming, which will be Yahweh Shai coming in all glory. See, because we're paving the way for Yahweh Shai for him to get the credit to do what he's going to do. With dyed garments from Basra, all right, which is America.
And there are these cutesy little slogans.
Yeah.
Oh, the Palestinians, they never miss an opportunity to miss an opportunity. Or see, we have no partner for peace. Or, is a land without people for a people without land. Now, all these things are lies, and only a child or a fool who wants very desperately to believe them would believe them. So then what's the reality? The reality is the Zionists came, and especially after World War II, in 1947 and in 48, they expelled greater than an Austin, Texas worth of people from their land. 750,000 people. The Trail of Tears under Andrew Jackson, that was 40,000 people, Cherokee, were marched to Oklahoma. 40,000. The Nakba was 700.
I think that number is skewed and very underweighed. You feel me? 40,000 Gadites only? Really?
50,000 people force marched out of their homes at the threat of bayonet, murder, and rape and massacre, and were never allowed to come home again. That's how Israel was created in the first place. And they succeeded at that time in creating an 80-20 super duper Jewish majority. So they could say, we're a Jewish democracy. And as sinful as that was, it was sustainable, essentially. And even according to the founders of the Israeli state, many of them, the real, error by the Zionist government there was in 67. It was not the Palestinians, which, by the way, in 48, the Israelis had done a secret deal with the king of Jordan. Golda Meir, the future prime minister, had gone and done the shuttle diplomacy, made a secret deal that he would keep the West Bank so that the Palestinians couldn't have it. Remember, the UN recommendation, which the United Nations has no authority whatsoever to take a nation state away from a group of people and give it to anyone else whatsoever. But their recommendation was that the Israelis get a state and the Palestinians get one too. Well, the Israelis screwed them out of it from the very beginning and made sure that the king of Jordan would get the West Bank. And then after the war, the Egyptians got control of the Gaza Strip, just so the Palestinians couldn't have their independent state. Because if they have real national borders and a seat at the UN, well, they're not going to be, the Israelis aren't going to be able to take that land. And it's going to be a much more difficult prospect for them to take that land in the future. But as long as it's under the control of the Jordanians, well, we can get to it someday.
Right. So is that why you think, because that would be my question, is why do you think they gave the Palestinians over to the Jordanians and to the Egyptians? It was so that they could eventually take it.
That's right. Well, certainly to prevent the Palestinians from having a state. And then, yes, with an eye toward being able to further victimize them easier later if they are stateless.
Right.
So then in 67, Israel started the war. They called it a preemptive war, but they admitted, and I got all the quotes, they admitted that the Egyptians were not really moving against them. But they launched the war, and then Jordan and Syria jumped in, and Israel defeated all three of them in the 6-day war. And then in doing so, they took control of all of the West Bank, and including all of the eastern half of Jerusalem as well, and took control of the Gaza Strip. Now, at that time, David Ben-Gurion, the founding prime minister of Israel, said we should not keep this land. We should give it up right now, because with the land comes millions of people we don't want.
Right.
So we steal the land, we kidnap the people. Now,
so notice, remember the scriptures say, matter of fact, let's just go get it. Let's go get it. This is the book of John, the Gospel of John, chapter 10, verse 10. It says, "The thief cometh not but for to steal and kill and destroy. I am come that they might have life and that they might have it more abundantly." You see? So this devil, man, he got a lot to
Now,
pay
what are we
for.
going to do with them all? And the idea was, I don't know, we'll figure it out someday, but we want to take that land. And that doesn't mean every Israeli thinks that. But what it means is the Likud does, and that's the right-wing party that's been dominant in the country since the late 70s. On and off, there have been, Ehud Barak and Yitzhak Rabin were in there. But overall, Likud has been dominant from Begin through Netanyahu and then Sharon. Ehud Olmert was his right-hand man. They had formed Kadima by then, but it was, still Ariel Sharon's, he had been a Likud guy the whole time. And then Netanyahu is the longest serving prime minister in Israeli history. He's dominated this entire century after Olmert. So it has been this right-wing government there. And
Let me get, here we go. So Salah.
Netanyahu doctrine, okay? Just before, hang on, I got a call. Just before the October 7th attack, like 2 weeks before, Netanyahu gave a speech to the United Nations where he held up a map of Israel-Palestine. There's no Palestine there. It's just Israel from the river to the sea, right? Only you'll not be free. And what he's saying in the speech, I'm roughly paraphrasing, but you can read it. What he's saying is, Palestinians, you lose. I figured out.
So I'm going to leave it right here. Okay. So if you could see this, let me move my menorah. All right. If you could see this picture pretty clearly, you got Benjamin, not a JOO, all right, holding the map, like he said, 2 weeks before this. So this is to show you it was Hegelian dialectic. This is what they want. This is, remember the scriptures say, woe to them that write unrighteous decrees and write grievance upon their bed, roughly paraphrasing. You see, so they got a greater Israel project that they're trying to make, like they say, the new Middle East, where they have control of over everything you see that's green. United Arab Emirates, right? Where what is Dubai, Abu Dhabi, Saudi Arabia, the oil that's there, Bahrain, Jordan, where Petra is at, their original hometown, which is where those caves is at, right? The state of Israel, no Palestine, like you said, Egypt and Sudan. So basically, they have full control over the Red Sea and the Suez Canal. A lot of money. And what they're trying to do is usurp the birthright. Why? I'm going to end it up right here. This is Genesis 15, verse 18. In the same day, Yahweh made a covenant with Abram. All right? And Abram, Abaram, means exalted father. Okay, it says, saying, unto thy seed I have given this land. So one, you have to be of the seed. And the chosen line, right, was unto Isaac and unto Jacob, not Esau. Okay? And it goes on to say, from the river of Egypt unto the great river, the river Euphrates. And the map you seeing right now is basically trying to forcibly and usurp the birthright, the promise that was given, the covenant that was given unto Abraham, and we're sons of Abraham. As you could see, the Nile literally goes through Egypt and Sudan, and the Euphrates is literally, all right, from the top of Israel is really going into Syria, going all the way down into the Persian Gulf. All right. So if you were to take the landmass in between those lands, you pretty much would get this map. All right. So so these devils really think that they the chosen people, Israelites, man, when they're nothing but the synagogue of Shaitan. Okay. So there's going to be a rude awakening for these people, man. And this is what they're trying to push. All right. Hey, man. The Lord said he's going to, basically, let me get it in the book of Job. All right. No, yeah, the book of Job, Job 5 and 12. He disappointeth the devices of the crafty, so that their hands cannot perform their enterprise. And this enterprise is not going to happen, okay? Because New Jerusalem going to come. First of all, that this is where in the desert of Arabia, that right there is going to be the valley of Yahweh Jehoshaphat, completely destroyed, but rebuilt back up, all right, from the missiles, man. And New Jerusalem, the elect going to come down, all right, and stop, drop, shut them down, open up shop. That's what the elect going to do, man. All right, but yeah, Lord willing, Adawan Ratazar, Brakata Yahweh, Brakata Yahushai. That was edifying to the elect. And to the next time, Shalom.